I went to the country of Burkina Faso. It's on the central western part of the continent, very poor. The Sahara Desert controls a lot of that and encroaches upon the productive land about 3 miles every year. I went there because of what you folks did on Christmas Eve. You see, on Christmas Eve, I challenged you to raise enough money to put one clean water well in a small village to make an impact and difference. We needed $1,800 to do it. And you know how much we came up with? $1,856. So we gave the $56 tip. So it was really cool. And so I want to tell you a little bit about the story of going to Burkina Faso because it fits with what I want to share with you today. Whenever I went to a village, I could see the difference in having the well there because there are all these gardens. Every single family had their own little garden and they were growing onions and corn and watermelon and because they always had sunshine. And so they were living a good life because of that. And the cool part was their children weren't dying from waterborne diseases through tainted water. And I remember walking out on a Sunday afternoon, and I found where a lake had dried up. This lake was about 4 or 5 acres at one time. Remember, it only rains a couple months out of the year there. The rest of the time it is bone dry and hot. And so it wasn't spring fed, it just comes in and fills up from the floods in the spring with all the rains coming in. And it just slowly, day after day, week after week, goes down until there's no more. And somehow every year there's fish that survive. And I found out what the fish do is they bury themselves deep in the mud. And they stay there for 8 months until the rains come back and then they come back. Who'd have thought? God is crazy with all these weird kind of animals. Isn't that neat? Well, I walked upon this lake, and the only thing that was left was this area, maybe about half the size of the sanctuary, and it was just mud. And real thick mud, about knee deep or to me. And there are 2 boys that, what looked to me from about a quarter mile away, that were playing in the mud. They're about 8 or 10 years old, and it reminds me so much of my boys. I have 2 boys, and I know they would have been thick playing in the mud. And so I wanted to go up and talk to these little boys and say, boy, you look like you're having a good time. And what I found out is they were not playing in the mud. They had their hands and they were searching around to find 1 or 2 fish for supper that they could eat. And as I talked to them and talked to the missionary, to the interpreter, they said this might be the only food that they're going to get for the next couple of days. And it kind of broke my heart because I thought of my 2 boys and I thought how hard Nancy and I worked, so that they can go to the cupboard anytime and they can grab some chips or they can grab an orange or an apple or they can open up the refrigerator and they get a juice box or something like that anytime they want. And it makes me oftentimes ask the question, why do you want me to see this, Lord? Because you allowed me to be born in 5% of the global population that owns 1/3 of the wealth of the world. And as I go back to the United States, I'm reminded of this. I'm reminded in such a way that I encourage you to say, help me raise $1,800 if we could change the lives of the village. And you did it. You did it. So kudos to you and thank you. I read a very interesting book that I want to share with you today called A Hole in the Gospel. And the hole in the gospel, that title really intrigues me as a pastor and as a theologian. And the 2 words that intrigues me is the hole and the gospel. Because they don't typically go together. Now, none of us really like holes. Holes are things that we trip over. And how many of you just love this winter when you're driving down the road and it's a great big pothole and boom, your tire goes flat sometimes? We just love that in Indiana, don't we? Or how about if you're carrying a bucket and there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket and then suddenly it's empty? Holes often oftentimes aren't a good thing. But we know what the word gospel means. The gospel is the first 4 books of the Bible, of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It holds the gospel, it holds the Christmas story. It holds the story of Jesus coming. It holds the story of the crucifixion. It is power to us. I remember as a student going through Bible college, a professor asked us, what is gospel to you? And basically what he was asking is what is truth to you? What is your foundation that you lay your life upon that guides the decisions that you make? And we believe that the gospel is truth. And that it's truth for us. And so I'm going to begin to open this story up by describing 2 different churches in America, starting in 1960. In the 1960s, I belonged to a church as a very young child, in a very fundamentalist, kind of Baptist-like church. It was the missionary church. And the only difference between this fundamental missionary church and the Baptist church was really the spelling. I mean, it was pretty much the same thing. And I love that church. And but that church had a huge #1 focus to it. Get people saved. Get people saved. And so on Sunday morning when the preacher got done preaching, he'd have an altar call. And an altar call meant that people in the church would come down and they'd pray generally for 3 things. First of all, to have their sins forgiven and to come to know Christ. Secondly, they might have backslidden in their life and they walked away from the Lord and they're wanting to come back like the prodigal son. And then the third reason, maybe they have a loved one that they're praying for, or maybe an illness or sick. Those are the 3 reasons. And if the pastor didn't think enough people came up to pray, then we're going to sing 4 more verses of this next song so we can get more people up there. How many of you grew up or been in one of those churches? Yes, I know this have. I love that church. That's what I grew up in. There's another church in the 1960s that began to change. The United Methodist Church. The United Methodist Church in 1968 joined with the EUB, the Evangelical United Brethren, and became this huge, huge church in America. They are what we call the mainline denominations that are along with the Lutherans, the Presbyterians, the Church of Christ, the mainline huge denominations in America. And we began to turn our focus away from perhaps getting people saved and more so with what we call the social gospel, with concerning ourselves about feeding the poor, making sure the hungry had enough food, caring for children in school who needed to be tutored. Some of the things that we're doing in our church with the clothesline ministry, with the addiction ministry that we have with our court systems, those are good things. And some people call that social gospel, doing good things. And so there's this divide between this church that gets people saved and this church that cares about its community. And sometimes we have difficulty finding churches that do both. The mission of the LaPorte First United Methodist Church and the mission of the church in general is to make disciples and then transform the world. And I love that mission because it cares for both evangelism and caring for the needy, transforming your community. You see, because Jesus says, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, right? And then to transform the world means that we need to help our brother. We need to care for our brother in our community. There's a story that goes about this farmer's wife and the husband that were in the kitchen of their farmhouse, and they were opening up a package. And when they opened up the package, it just so happened that the barnyard mouse was inside the kitchen watching them. And the farmer's wife opened up the package, and you know what it was? It was a mouse trap. A mouse trap!